morning and welcome to Bongino Report Early Edition. I am your host, Abida. A lot of stories to get to on this Friday. Kamala Harris was spoon-fed questions during last night's interview with Dana Bash, and she was caught lying about her so-called humble beginnings as well this week. A UN official admits the globalists are terrified of an America First second Trump term. Surprise, surprise. Trump promises free IVF if he's elected. Meanwhile, the DOJ is throwing more pro-lifers in prison. A watchdog group says the FBI is failing to investigate child sexual abuse cases. The lead actress in Disney's The Acolyte blames bigoted conservatives for her show getting canceled. And Gen Z Catholic girls are bringing back veiling. All this on Bongino Report Early Edition. So Kamala Harris finally did her first sit-down interview since accepting the Democratic nomination. And you guys all know that she was refusing to talk to any reporters, even the friendly ones, which is most of them actually, considering the legacy media is basically the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. So, of course, she has her sit-down interview with her human shield, Tim Walz, right next to her, and interviewer Dana Bash, who is a left-wing journalist. And if you guys didn't know, Dana Bash's ex-husband, Jeremy Bash, happens to be one of the 51 former Intel officials who smeared the verified Hunter Biden laptop as Russian disinformation. So she's totally not compromised at all, guys. She's a real straight shooter for a journalist. Not. And so in this interview last night, Dana Bash asked Kamala about why she's flip-flopped on so many issues. But after asking the question, Dana gives Kamala several options for how she can smoothly answer the question, as if it's multiple choice. You guys, I kid you not, this interview was unreal. Take a listen.
Generally speaking, how should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy? Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. We did that with the Inflation Reduction Act. We have set goals for the United States of America and by extension the globe around when we should meet certain standards for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, as an example. That value has not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value has not changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed.
We're good with that. So she's just straight up lying. And the most insane part of that video was the American people know she's straight up lying there. There wasn't a real clear response here. Dana gave her a much better answer than Kamala did. And she was given that answer. So she did a poor job at answering the question that Dana gave her the correct response for. Do you guys realize how insane that is? Imagine if she was in an interview with, somebody says, multiple choice test. It was a multiple choice test. Can you guys imagine if a non-left-wing hack journalist did this interview? Can you imagine what would happen to Kamala? And again, as Molly pointed out earlier this week, Molly Hemingway, my former boss, she should be doing 10 interviews a day, not one pre-recorded sit-down interview with a left-wing CNN hack. And she didn't even do well with that. Unreal. Now, Kamala was also specifically asked about fracking, and she basically gave a "trust me, bro, I won't ban fracking" response. I want you guys to take a listen to this, and then we're going to talk about it.
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
in 2019, I believe, in a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question, I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in
so
2024,
confused.
and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
What made you change that position at the time?
Well, let's be clear. My values have not changed. I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate. And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far. The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation, over probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years, investing in a clean energy economy. What we've already done, creating over 300,000 new clean energy jobs. That tells me, from my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking. In fact, Dana, I cast the tie-breaking vote that actually increased leases for fracking.
Hey, you guys, I want you to take a look at this article headline from the New York Times. Harris goes light on climate policy. Green leaders are okay with that. Do you guys want to know why they're okay with it? As Kamala said herself, her values have not changed. She can't talk climate if she wants to win states like Pennsylvania. But the climate fanatics know where she stands. She said it in the interview. As a senator, this woman co-sponsored the Green New Deal. It's not a secret where she stands. And what does that mean for us if she gets elected? What does an end to fossil fuels mean, for instance? Tons of jobs lost, first, but also people will die. Modern life afforded to us by fossil fuels is why climate-related disaster deaths have plummeted by 99% in the last 100 years. And you know what else? You know what else it means? It also means a consolidation of wealth in the 1% while the masses continue to get poorer. Kamala Harris and the Democrats, they say they're for the working man, say they're for the people. We just want everybody to pay their fair share. Taxes on billionaires. This is what they brand themselves as. Look at this Politico article. This is really who the Democrats are. Upper income homeowners are scooping up billions of dollars in tax credits for making their residences more energy efficient, while the poor are getting almost nothing under the same Biden administration effort. Guys, green energy subsidies and incentives, they only benefit wealthy investors and large corporations that can afford to take advantage of them. Carbon credits and emissions trading schemes gives large corporations more control of the world's resources, furthering economic disparity. So large corporations can profit from environmental regulations while smaller businesses and individuals cannot because they don't have the time or the legions of lawyers. And again, this isn't about the climate. It is about money. It is about social control and disempowering the masses. It is transparently evil. And that the climate cult is perfectly content with Kamala Harris is one of the scariest things about her. Guys, this woman is really a serial liar. She's a chameleon. And the only true thing about her is that she's going to be an empty vessel like Joe. Accountability to the American people is a non-issue for this woman. Here's Kamala claiming that she's the daughter of Oakland, California, because she wants to make herself seem more relatable, humble, and working class.
For two middle-class kids, one a daughter of Oakland, California, who was raised by a working mother, the other.
You guys, Michael, can you pull up Kamala's birth certificate for a second? Just throw that up there. Kamala was born in an Oakland hospital. And shout out to Jesse Waters for breaking this story. She was born in an Oakland hospital, but her birth certificate lists an apartment building near the University of California at Berkeley, where her parents were pursuing their doctorate. So in other words, Kamala grew up as a privileged elite child. And she conveniently forgets to ever mention that she also spent many of her formative teen years in Montreal, Canada. She then moved to Washington, after her teen years, she moved to Washington, D.C. to study at Howard University before she returned back to California. And Harris did not officially move to Oakland until 1993 when she purchased a one-bedroom condo while she was working as a prosecutor. So Kamala's trying to convey that she's this down-to-earth woman. She's so relatable. She's got this all-American upbringing. And she's lying to create this persona. You guys remember how I said elites and corporations love Kamala because the climate scam is consolidating wealth among the 1%? Well, we got verbal confirmation yesterday that the global elites at the UN hate Trump. And if that isn't a Trump endorsement, you guys, I don't know what is. Jorge Paolini, a self-described globalist and the United Nations legal affairs official, was caught on camera saying everyone at the UN is terrified of a second Trump term. And this video was taken by an undercover reporter for Steven Crowder's Mug Club. I want you guys to take a listen.
Is globalism one of the goals for the UN?
Absolutely. It's a threat to the absolute power of the United States.
One of the defining features of this MAGA movement is the ultranationalism. And one of the main enemies are what they call the globalists. And the definition of a globalist.
One of the objectives of the UN is to create an identity of a global citizen.
They create this institution, which is the closest we've ever got to kind of like a world government.
You know, the United Nations does not have its own army.
Should it?
Absolutely.
I'm not sure the United Nations as an institution is going to survive a second term by Donald Trump. The United States government funds 27% of the UN budget.
Is that more than anyone else?
Oh, by a long stretch.
A United Nations without the action of the United States backing it up, it's not going to be effective.
The purpose of Donald Trump is to end the international institutions that somehow level the playing field. It's a movement that is deeply nationalistic. It's America first, America, make America great again, America, America, America. He wants America first.
So does the UN not want him? Yeah, because I remember her
We are terrified. They're terrified.
So the internal vibe of the UN is like no one wants Trump because of that?
Absolutely nobody wants Trump.
So is the UN just like useless now?
I would say for 95% of issues related to international peace and security, yes.
Oh my goodness, what an incredible video. Did you guys hear the part where he said, I'm not sure the United Nations as an institution is going to survive a second term by Donald Trump? They want America first, as if America first is a really bad thing. Make America great again is a really bad thing. Guys, we are indeed the largest contributor to the UN, and yet the UN hates it when America puts American interests first. Why are we funding an organization like this? Especially when the UN admits that the UN is 95% useless at its primary function of international peace and security. Can you believe that admission? Insane. Guys, countries should be led by leaders who have the interests of the people they represent in mind. They should not be beholden to a globalist cabal. And make no mistake, the UN is involved in censorship efforts across tech platforms and is actively interfering in this election against Donald Trump and any populist election of an official around the world. These people hate it when leaders actively represent the people that they are leading. Just a few headlines for you all. UN chief calls for regulating social media companies. UN experts, freedom of speech is not a freedom to spread racial hatred on social media. That's an official, it's an official statement from them. Another UN expert, urgent need for more accountability from social media giants to curb hate speech. Because we are funding the people who are engaging in election interference. And if Jorge and his friends hate Trump, that is a great reason to vote for him. Now, notice, you guys, how I just did an entire segment and how Kamala is aligned with globalists who want to impoverish the masses, and that Trump is America first? Okay, I want you guys to keep what I just said in mind as I go into this next segment. Because what I'm not saying at all in this next segment is that you should vote for Kamala. No, I am not saying that. Because I know I'm going to get comments from some of you who will say, oh, Evita, you hate Donald Trump now. You're a traitor. No, I am not saying vote for Kamala Harris. But I want to cover something that happened yesterday. Trump announced that if he is elected, he would force either the government or insurance companies to fund IVF or in vitro fertilization. Take a listen.
I'm announcing today in a major statement that under the Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment, fertilization for women, IVF treatment. Because we want more babies, to put it very nicely. And for this same reason, we will also allow new parents to deduct major newborn expenses from their taxes, so that parents that have a beautiful baby will be able. So we're pro-family. Nobody's ever said that before. But the IVF treatments are expensive. It's very hard for many people to do it and to get it. But I've been in favor of IVF right from the beginning.
Okay, now you guys, as a Catholic, as a Christian, I have a lot of moral issues with this proposal. And I also just don't think the government should be involved in healthcare, period. And I certainly don't think it should be funding IVF. And the reason healthcare is so expensive is because of government interference in situations like this. And Trump's proposal is really giving me flashbacks to when Obamacare was forcing Christian hospitals to fund abortifacient contraceptives. Really just stuff that makes you think, what's happened to America? We had this thing called freedom of religion, and the government was actively interfering in that right. This feels very similar to that. But I don't even really want to talk about the moral issues here, because guys, Trump's right that we do need more babies. It's just correct. And here's GC Drano, very famous Twitter account, applauding Trump, writing, "What a concept! Babies made in the USA instead of bringing in illegals." And I think that's correct. We are failing to meet replacement rates, and we should be promoting citizens to have children, because the Americans who have children will have children that share our values and our culture, and it's much better than importing a ton of random people from different parts of the world. So Trump is identifying a problem, but his solution is not right. Paying for IVF is not the way to have more American-born babies. And I have a proposal. There are 3 things that I think we should do. The first, start fighting big pharma and big food and get America healthy again. Per the WHO, infertility rates across the world are on the rise, with roughly 1 in 6 people experiencing it. Why? Because listen to Casey Means on Tucker Carlson talking about the health crisis in this country and its relation to infertility rates.
Absolutely. So PCOS, essentially you have an ovary. That ovary is making hormones. And when that ovary is stimulated by excess insulin, which is the hormone in the blood that helps us take blood sugar out of the blood and into the cells, insulin levels go up in the setting of metabolic dysfunction. We basically destroy our cells with our toxic food and lifestyle. The cells can no longer process sugar to energy. So the cell rejects sugar and it stays in the bloodstream. The body compensates by making more insulin to try and drive the sugar into the cell that's putting up a block because it's broken, essentially. That high insulin floats all around the body and does bad things all over the body, like drives cancer growth and also stimulates the ovary to make more testosterone. So you have women who are supposed to be making, estrogen and progesterone in very specific levels throughout the hormone cycle so that we can ovulate. And instead, insulin is driving the ovary to create testosterone, which totally disturbs the balance between all the sex hormones in the female body, and we don't ovulate. So you get these cysts that form because you've got an egg trying to basically ovulate, but instead it can't because the hormones are disrupted because of insulin, which is because of metabolic dysfunction, because of our food. And we get infertility because we're not ovulating. So
Lucky Charms leads over time.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%. It's our
and this condition is reversible in
Quickly.
as little as 12 weeks with dietary interventions. There is peer-reviewed studies to show this. If we get our blood sugar levels under control and our insulin levels under control, we restore the hormonal balance. And many women, all the symptoms will disappear and they'll be able to become fertile. And yet doctors do not learn. The average doctor is getting zero education in nutrition. And so they don't even see this.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of comments. I'm reading some of them here, you guys. I'm seeing you say, IVF, I have no moral problem with it. It's a personal choice. Okay, let me just clarify. I'm not making a comment about personal choice for IVF. What I'm saying is I don't want to fund it. I don't want Trump to force taxpayers who might not like IVF or want to be funding it to fund it. Does that make sense? That's what I'm saying right now. And the real point of this, of my critique of Trump is that he's identifying a crisis, which is that we're not meeting replacement rates, and his solution is not good. The way that we should be dealing with this problem of dropping birth rates is, number one, which is what Casey Means was talking about, dealing with the health crisis. Fighting infertility by addressing the chemicals and the hormones and the ultra-processed foods that are poisoning us. And second, we have to start financially incentivizing family. And I know Trump sort of mentioned it, but we need major tax breaks for every child that you have and double it if one parent stays home to raise the kids. But economic incentives can only go so far because the reality is a lot of people are just choosing not to have kids. Infertility plays a role. Economic obstacles plays a role. But the choice is also there as well. People just don't want to start families, or they're starting them way later than they should be. Which is why I think my third solution is that we need to return to Christ. We need to return to our Christian founding. And this country was founded as a Christian nation. The left will try to convince you, and even some people on the right, that we're a morally relativist country. That is not true. The founders always intended the populace to be predominantly Christian. You can only respect the inalienable rights if you respect the Creator who endowed them. Now, crucially, religious people have far more children than the rest of the population, which is why we need to rehabilitate our Christian founding. Let's bring prayer, morning prayer, back into public schools. The government needs to stop being morally relative and letting Satanists set up altars to the devil in state houses. Yes, that is happening. And bigger than that, we need a cultural and spiritual revival. And that's going to take Christians, not the government, coming out of the shadows and actually evangelizing and living out their faith publicly. So that's my 2 cents to the Trump team. Just gave you 3 solutions. And the first 2 would be overwhelmingly well received by both sides of the political aisle. Having taxpayers foot the bill for IVF, however, is not the answer to dropping birth rates. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, I've got more for you all on the pro-life movement. The DOJ is hunting down pro-life activists while it's letting child sex abusers off the hook. Stay tuned. Boncharge is a holistic wellness brand with a huge range of evidence-based products to help optimize your life. Boncharge sent me one of the red light face masks, and it really did help to smooth and clear my skin. I'm also someone who really believes in taking anti-aging measures while you're young, and both near infrared and red light help boost collagen and help elastin production, which is essential for keeping your skin youthful. Boncharge's red light face mask is super lightweight and doesn't get hot. Plus, it comes with a 1-year warranty. Red light therapy has been reviewed in over 4,000 peer-reviewed studies, with 400 plus being double-blind placebo trials, and these studies show amazing health benefits. It takes just 10 to 20 minutes a day. Boncharge is trusted by leading professionals worldwide. Boncharge also has other amazing products such as low blue light bulbs, blue light glasses, EMF protection products, infrared sauna blankets, and 100% blackout sleep masks. Go to boncharge.com and use coupon code EVITA to save 15%. That's BONCHARGE.com and use coupon code EVITA, EVITA, to save 15%. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. Shout out to our sponsors for keeping this show free. Really appreciate them. All right, speaking of the life issue, I'd like to see Trump start talking about this, and I haven't really heard anything from him about it. Last week, prosecutors filed additional cases against pro-lifers in Pennsylvania and New York who happened to be Red Rose rescuers. And if you didn't know, Red Rose rescuers hand out red roses along with information about alternatives to abortion to women entering abortion facilities. And they also, of course, offer support to these women who might be considering terminating their pregnancies. And the roses are meant to represent life and offer a message of hope and compassion. Now, these pro-life Red Rose rescuers are, of course, being charged with violating the FACE Act, which is a federal law that, and this is a quote from the act, prohibits use of force, threats of force, or physical obstruction against anyone for seeking or providing reproductive health services. And this is the law that all these pro-lifers are being persecuted under. And what's important to note here is that per the director of Citizens for Pro-Life Society, Red Rose rescuers do not violate the FACE Act because those who participate do not physically obstruct or interfere with anyone's freedom of movement. And of course, the FACE Act is also meant to protect churches and pro-life pregnancy facility and centers, but they really only are there to protect abortion facilities. The law is pretty much exclusively used against pro-lifers. It is weaponized against pro-lifers. Between 1994 and 2024, there were 205 FACE Act prosecutions against abortion opponents and just 6 against abortion defenders. Think about who they're going after as well. Peaceful, church-going, law-abiding Americans who are trying to save babies who frankly should be protected under the First Amendment to begin with. Meanwhile, the murderous abortionists inside the facilities carrying out the killing of kids, they're off the hook. So I guess Trump wants taxpayers to fund morally compromising IVF. Meanwhile, pro-life warriors are being thrown in prison. His base is being thrown in prison. I repeat, I'd like to see Trump promise to pardon every FACE Act violator, not force us to fund IVF. It really feels like a slap in the face from Trump. And again, I'm not saying vote for Kamala, but we can hold our leaders accountable. We can ask for the best. And you know who else carries on while pro-lifers are going to prison? Everyone that was involved in the censorship ahead of the 2020 election. All the Russia hoaxers. Everyone on Jeffrey Epstein's client list. Or just child sexual abusers in general. Yesterday, a Justice Department watchdog said the FBI is failing to investigate child sexual abuse. Inspector General Michael Horowitz flagged 42 cases in which in the past 3 years that appeared to require immediate attention but didn't receive it, including one in which a reported victim continued to be abused for 15 months after the initial report. Now, the outlets that reported on this is per USA Today, the problems stemmed at least in part by a lack of staffing. FBI agents investigating child sexual abuse were each handling scores of cases. Ah, yes, the FBI, they need more funding and more agents. No, they do not. Do not let them use this failure to go after child sexual abusers as a way to leech off the taxpayers even more. They have plenty of resources. Child abuse just is not their priority. In 2022, whistleblowers revealed that the FBI has been moving agents off the child sexual abuse cases and trafficking cases to instead pursue January 6 investigations. And then in 2023, we learned that the agency had redefined domestic extremism to include Trump supporters. And at the time, nearly 2/3 of the FBI's current investigations centered on Trump supporters accused of disregarding anti-riot laws. Again, the agency is going after law-abiding citizens, while traffickers, rapists, coup stagers, criminal censors, they all get off the hook. They do not need more money. They need to be defunded. Not only is this agency useless, it is dangerous. All right, you guys, switching gears here. Do you remember the series, The Acolyte? It was just canceled because no one watched it. You want to know why nobody watched it? Here is the lead actress and showrunner promoting the series. And by the way, I'll just add The Acolyte, for those of you who don't know, is a Disney Star Wars series. So it's continuing in the Star Wars universe. Here is the showrunner and the lead actress promoting the series.
I think
that Star Wars is so gay already.
Okay.
I mean, have you seen the fits? We'd be like, look how gay this is, and then send each other a reference photo.
And are you telling me, with a straight face, that C-3PO is straight?
They're a couple. That's what I think. But this is more outward.
I think it's canon that R2-D2 is a lesbian.
Oh,
Ooh.
interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Ask Filoni. Okay.
Ask Filoni.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, talk to Filoni.
It's almost like the Disney Star Wars franchise hates its fan base. It is wholly committed to bastardizing the source material and angering the people who actually care about it. And the lead actress in Disney's The Acolyte, this is the mixed race woman who was in the interview and the video that I just played. Her name is Amandla Stenberg. And she has an explanation for why the show is being canceled. And there's no accountability whatsoever here, you guys. I want you to take a listen to who she blames.
A rampage of vitriol that we have faced since the show was even announced, when it was still just a concept and when no one had even seen it. And that's when we started experiencing a rampage of, I would say, hyper-conservative bigotry and vitriol, prejudice, hatred, and hateful language towards us.
Okay, so somebody says, what a shame. I was really looking forward to not watching season 2. Me too. I didn't watch season 1. Apparently, a lot of you didn't watch season 1. Okay, so she blames her show sucking on hatred and bigotry from the hyper-conservative viewers. Blaming Star Wars fans for being bigoted instead of taking a step back and going, why do Star Wars fans not like Star Wars? Not like the Star Wars content that I'm producing? That should be the question that they're asking. And instead, they're just blaming the fan base. And this is something for you guys to understand about the left. Introspection never happens. As many of you know, I spent many years living in Marathon County, went to middle school and high school there, this place in Wisconsin. And this was a part of the state of Wisconsin that voted for Obama and then switched to Trump in 2016. It is a white middle-class area. And instead of thinking, why are all these working-class Americans like those in Marathon County voting for Trump? The left blames it on racism. The New York Times actually explicitly wrote a hit piece on my hometown calling all of us racist for not voting to pass a local equity and diversity statement. It's the same thing here. Perhaps this has something to do with the fact that Democrats have aligned with corporate interests and are impoverishing the masses and destroying economic opportunity via authoritarian climate policies and stakeholder capitalism. But that's never discussed. Nope, it's just racism. These racist white people. And the same thing here when they say, creating this really poorly written content with all the woke identity politics, lazily throwing in mixed race, black, gay people into the mix. Doesn't make good TV. You're not respecting the source material. You're not respecting your fan base. You're just pissing off the genuine fans. But instead of thinking about why people don't want to watch your show, why wokeifying something and not having any care for the source material is angering fans, they just call the fans bigoted. There is no accountability, and there never will be from the left. And the correct response really is what you all did, which is not watch it. Don't watch these wokeified shows. And that's what the Star Wars fans did here, and I say good job, you guys. Okay, last story. I know I've gone a little long today. I came across this article in the Free Press yesterday, and I got really excited. It's titled, "The Young Catholic Women Bringing Back Veils. A New Generation of Worshippers is Longing for a Lost Type of Catholicism." And the article talks about how there is a resurgence in young Catholic women veiling. And veiling has roots in the early Christian church. So to my Protestant friends who are listening, there's no reason why you all can't veil as well. It's an early Christian tradition. But the Catholic Church has continued to practice veiling for centuries until the 1960s, when the Catholic Church decided to modernize via an ecumenical council known as Vatican II. And while veiling wasn't addressed in the council, like many other things, it was done away with in the spirit of Vatican II. But now veiling is back. And the reason that I love this article is because I happen to be one of those Gen Z girls who often chooses to veil even at English speaking masses. Here's a picture of me. It's actually a pretty somber photo. My brother took this at my grandmother's funeral, but I am veiling there as I usually do. And so somber occasion, but you get a sense of what it looks like if you've never seen it before. And the reason that I was attracted to veiling was even before I really knew what it meant. I just thought it was really beautiful. And I've been wearing it on and off since I was in middle school. And there are a few biblical passages that give weight to the tradition. But I think it does a couple things. I think it signals that you're in a sacred place when you enter church. And the article quotes Belgian-American philosopher and theologian Alice von Hildebrand, who argues that whatever is sacred calls for veiling, which includes the female body with its unique capacity to bear life. So veiling really signals the glory of femininity. It's just as a quote from the article, the last God created was woman, almost as if woman was his crowning creation. So far from being oppressive, as some have compared it to, veiling is a celebration of women. It's not forced like a burqa or a hijab is on Muslim women. It's optional, and in my opinion, it's very beautiful. And I've just had a fascination with tradition, really, I think my whole life. And I think a lot of young people do as well. I think there's an impulse to gravitate toward tradition, and it makes perfect sense. And this is really why I wanted to bring up this article to all of you, because I have a lot of hope for my generation because of stories like this. Many of us have seen the worst of the worst, right? I was born within a year, and we have 9/11 and the Patriot Act. Our government is more corrupt than ever before in American history. Genuine concern about the environment is being exploited to impoverish the masses. Pro-lifers are being hunted down and thrown in prison while the DNC celebrates predators like Bill Clinton. The elites are threatening to revoke modern life as we know it. Meanwhile, we're spiritually sick. I've known peers who've gone through awkward phases and who get convinced by the cancerous culture that they're the opposite sex, so they mutilate their bodies and chemically castrate themselves. Abortion, hookup culture, war between the sexes, crumbling institutions. Guys, Gen Z has been through the ringer. And the spiritual warfare is at a 10. And the only answer is faith and tradition. And the young people that figure it out, they know it better than any other generation. They know that to fight demons, you have to be serious about living counterculturally. And that really gives me a lot of hope. I think it should give all of you a lot of hope as well as you go into the weekend. All right, that's all I have for today. Yes, Mikey? Oh my goodness, we hit 11K. I have 11K on my phone, Mikey. Wow, new record, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Big thanks to my husband, Michael, of course, as always. He puts this show together. He's running all the tech behind the scenes. He makes it happen. Would not be able to do any of this without him. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, make sure to hit the like and follow button. Again, I am here live on Rumble, 9 a.m. Eastern time, 5 days a week. I am off next Monday for the holiday, so I will see you all next Tuesday.